Theranos was founded in 2003 to democratize healthcare by Elizabeth Holmes. She molded her life and appearance after Steve Jobs because her life aim had been to become a millionaire. She was informed that her plan wouldn't work since it was physically impossible by her medicine professor, Phyllis Gardner, and several of her coworkers concurred. Hello there guys, welcome back to the channel and greetings. Today's video will discuss about Silicon Valley disasters, so be sure to stay focused. What brilliant concept was that? Holmes only intended to use fingertip blood when taking blood samples for blood tests. The primary source of inspiration for this concept was her phobia of needles. It was also said that the tech could test for various health conditions with just one blood sample kept in her nano-trainers, which are essentially small vials used to collect blood. But if true, it might have been brilliant. Short story. She was a fraud all along. Of course, her ideas would fail, and she never stopped lying to hide her flaws. According to the Wall Street Journal, the jury in that trial will hear testimony from patients who allegedly obtained inaccurate results from transposed tests. In some circumstances, these results might be fatal. According to new research published in the journal Personality and Individual Differences, people with high levels of the dark triad of personality traits, psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism, do not appear to have a weakened capacity for empathy. However, these people are not inclined to make use of this talent. Keep in mind that she is the same woman who aimed to democratize medicine by facilitating and accelerating blood testing for everyone by generating quicker and more varied findings from a single drop. She was selfish in ignoring the real people she had set out to serve, but she cared enough to start the vision. She is charged with mail fraud for misrepresenting Theranos' blood test technology to investors, patients, and physicians. In June 2018, Holmes was charged with fraud. The youngest self-made female billionaire has poured everything down the drain, all but her extravagant lifestyle, which, according to her attorneys, shouldn't be considered since it would inspire class prejudice among the jurors. According to a quotation from the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America, psychopathic people act in cruel and antisocial ways that imply they don't care what other people think. Even when it made people doubt their intelligence by clinging to what they imagined was a fantastic concept that would magically work. Holmes fired anybody and everyone who dared to dispute her authority, even if they were aware that it was absurdly good to be true. Ramesh Bhawani demonstrated that his propensity for lying was no different. It stands to reason that you would be a fantastic ally, business partner, lover, and enabler of Holmes. Psychopaths are drawn to one another, and after the investigation into the Theranos events, it was found that Bhawani, the company's president, was just as obstinate as Holmes. He was also terrified about corporate espionage. He was afraid that someone in the commercial medical industry would investigate Theranos' innovations for a competitive edge, but instead would discover the significant defects. He and Holmes attempted furiously to cover that up. In comparison to his similarly sleazy colleague, he was less persuasive. He believed he could converse in the jargon-free Queen's English of technology. He would frequently misuse and misinterpret phrases that he often used to sound more intelligent than he was. For instance, the term end effector refers to the portion of a robot's arm intended to interact with the environment. He misheard it as an endofactor. The corporation developed a running joke about including the error in PowerPoint presentations during meetings. With their nose in company, incompetence, and audacity are recurring patterns bold enough to declare 2014 earnings as $100 million when they were only $100,000. Given that we better understand Holmes' mentality, let's go through a timeline of the critical errors she made that led to her current predicament. She could not handle the number, so she changed it to an M to overcompensate for how she views herself, a deservingly inflated figure. Theranos and Walgreens collaborated in 2013 to contact customers directly. The following year, in 2014, Holmes gave a TED Talk about her aspirations to transform blood testing in the medical sector. In 2015, Theranos came under scrutiny from medical industry professionals in general. Dr. John Ioannidis blasted Holmes and Theranos for working covertly in an essay he published for the American Medical Association Journal. In other words, the business was essentially charged with concealing research and peer-reviewed medical publications. By July of the same year, the FDA had approved no blood tests for herpes simplex virus type 1. The containers or one-drop blood vials used by the company's blood testing machines were criticized by two former workers in December of the same year as being erroneous. The company responded that those workers were, quote, unsatisfied. Holmes agreed to submit to a second FDA inspection and was given the all-clear. According to Psychology Today, boldness is one trait that both heroes and psychopaths share. From her perspective, Holmes is the medical world's greatest hero. Courageous, brave attributes are frequently linked to heroic action, but callous ones like meanness and coldness are not. The fact that persons with a history of antisocial behavior are more inclined to perform selfless deeds to aid others is more perplexing, according to Psychology Today. In 2015, former Vice President and current President Joe Biden visited Theranos to hear their motivational speech. This is Motivational Biden about soon-to-be discontinued therapeutic surgeries. Here's where things start to go wrong for our heroic doctor. The Wall Street Journal published a devastating report about Theranos on October 15 and 16, 2015. Former employees who were questioned by writer John Carreyrou alleged that management had overstated the capabilities of the technology, had lied to the public, and was generally quite stupid. Soon after, Holmes allegedly appeared on Mad Money, according to her quote. "When you try to change things, this is what happens. They initially dismiss you as crazy, then fight you, and suddenly you start to alter the world." Let's move forward to October 16, 2015. Theranos has reportedly been ordered to halt all operations involving blood testing devices and mammetainers, except the one referenced earlier in the doc as a herpes simplex virus, according to a follow-up article in the Wall Street Journal. November 2015 saw both a decline and steady momentum. The $350 million agreement with Safeway fails, according to a December 2015 Wall Street Journal story. Another study from the Wall Street Journal asserts that tests are not rigged to yield higher results. March 2018, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has accused Theranos of fraud. They claim that Holmes and Balwani engaged in a sophisticated, years-long deception in which they overstated or made false claims about the company's technology business and financial performance, raising more than $700 million from investors. Following this accusation, Holmes loses her business's ownership, is compelled to refund millions of shares to Theranos, and is prohibited from holding an officer or director position with any public company for 10 years. What a fall from grace for someone who was in some ways, perhaps even to a fault, smart. The federal grand jury indicted Holmes and Balwani in June 2018 on 2 counts of conspiracy and 9 counts of wire fraud after discovering that they had engaged in 2 schemes to mislead doctors, patients, and multi-million-dollar investors. Holmes later resigned as CEO but continued to serve on the business board. Theranos failed to find a buyer by September 5, 2018 and was consequently obliged to liquidate and return all cash to creditors. Investors were notified of its shutdown by email from Theranos. The Wall Street Journal said that equity stakes in the company were essentially worthless, and Theranos' website was also shut down. As of Friday, May 28, homeowners and attorneys have asked that potential jurors refrain from writing extensively disparaging things about the selection process. It's pretty domestic to constantly feel the desire for control after receiving punishment. Remember that this happened after the trial had already been postponed due to her unexpected pregnancy announcement on May 17. In 2019, she also got hitched to Billy Evans. She appeared so carefree when the paparazzi caught up with her, showing no sign of being able to accept the results of her actions or how to reflect on them humbly. It appears that life did not end with the diagnosis. That's all we have for you today. Take a look at Silicon Valley disasters. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't want to miss any future videos, subscribe to the channel and switch on notifications.